Hi everyone, my name is John Harold Moore. I'm a family constellations facilitator, a spiritual coach, and a longtime student of A Course in Miracles. And I'm here to share another story with you that I hope will help you live a more joyful and peaceful life. Now, normally I share these stories in written form every week, but it's a new year, so I thought I'd shake things up, try something new. So I'm recording a video and telling you my story instead of writing about it. So bear with me. Let's see how this goes. I'm just coming back from a wonderful weekend in Ocala, Florida. I co facilitated a mini retreat with two dear, dear friends, Reverend Cindy Grimes and Amy Steinberg. We called it a weekend of joy, and wow, was it a weekend of joy! We healed, we laughed, we danced, we sang, we did constellations, we did meditations. It was really such a beautiful event. Cindy approached me about doing something at the Center for Spiritual Living, where she's the spiritual leader, probably in December. And it sounded good to me. I love her. I love the community up there. And then she said, well, maybe we could get Amy. She might be available. And she was. And she came down from Asheville to lend her music and her voice and her love and her workshop for her new book. And oh my gosh, it was such a great, great weekend. I'm so glad we did it. It set a beautiful tone for 2025. And it reminded me of what's possible when it's a wholehearted yes. You know, it was about 20 years ago or so where I had my first spiritual gathering. It was Valentine's Day 2004. I went with two new friends to this gathering, and over the course of the weekend, they were telling me about this shaman training that they signed up for in Seattle. It was 4 weekends over the course of a year, and I was brand new to spirituality. I didn't know anything about shamanism really, but I liked what they had to say about it. So I thought, oh, that'll be interesting. And they kind of talked me into doing it. And I thought, well, it'll be a good opportunity to spend time with my two new friends and learn something new. So I signed up for it, I registered. So it was just a few weeks later, I think, that another new friend from that gathering reached out to me and told me about a trip he was organizing to the Bahamas. He was going to rent a catamaran. He knew a captain and some other guys that he had sailed with before, and they were going to take that catamaran from Miami to the Bahamas and swim with wild dolphins and see if the dolphins were at all interested in crystal singing bowls, because we all played crystal singing bowls. And I thought, wow, that is a really cool idea. I've always loved dolphins. I love being on a boat. It just sounded amazing. Like, what an opportunity. So I asked him when that was happening, and it was happening the same weekend as the first shaman training. I was like, dang it. I'd already paid the deposit and I signed up for it, and I just was like, I was so torn. I didn't know what to do because I wanted to do both of them. So I reached out to an intuitive counselor I knew who happened to live in Seattle also at the time. And I booked a session and I said, hey, I don't know what to do. I hear these two things. And she said, okay, well, tell me a little bit about each one of them. So I told her about the shaman training and how I was interested in it. And I knew I'd learn something from it and it'd be good to spend time with these two friends. And she said, okay, well, tell me about the dolphin trip. I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. I love being on boats. I love being on the water. I love dolphins. It just sounds amazing. And to be out in the water for 5 days away from land. And she's like, John, you don't need me. Listen to yourself. Listen to how you're talking about the dolphin trip and listen to how you're talking about the shaman training. The choice is pretty obvious. And of course, she was right. I didn't see it until she pointed it out, but there was so much joy about going on that dolphin trip. And there was an interest, but not the wholehearted yes of the dolphin trip. So I reached out to the organization that was hosting the shaman training and I withdrew my registration. I lost my deposit, unfortunately, but you know what? It was so worth it. That dolphin trip was one of the highlights, no exaggeration, probably of my entire life. That trip was filled with probably some of the most joyful, most connected to spirit moments I've ever had. And maybe I'll make a video about that experience someday because it was pretty amazing. But the lesson there was to follow my joy, to really check in. And if it's not a wholehearted yes, it's probably a no. Now, it can't always be a wholehearted yes every single time, but if you are facing a decision right now, check in with yourself. Is it a wholehearted yes? Because if it's not, it might be a no. So I hope this story was helpful. I hope that you will subscribe to this channel and like this video, leave a comment, tell me about your dilemmas, your moments of joy, that the moments where you followed joy and it worked out well. And if you want to book a coaching session with me, you can visit my website, johnharoldmoore.com. You can also find out information about family constellations and our weekly online A Course in Miracles study group. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.